Good afternoon and welcome to IBA News. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy, joining you live from Jerusalem. Well, they say a week is a long time in politics, and sometimes a day can be even longer. It was a dramatic day on the political front here at home. Joining us now with all the latest developments and negotiations to expand the coalition is IBA's political correspondent, Kalev Ben-David.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to meet at this hour with Avigdor Lieberman after the Yisrael Beitenu leader put his party into play as a possible coalition partner. Lieberman, who has previously spoken out against joining a Netanyahu-led government, held a press conference earlier today which opened the door to possible coalition negotiations with the Prime Minister. Lieberman said a serious offer would include his becoming the defense minister, Yisrael Beitenu receiving the immigrant absorption ministry, and a pledge to seek enactment of the death penalty for terrorists. The Prime Minister has my phone number if he is ready to make such an offer, Lieberman told reporters at the Knesset. Netanyahu quickly responded with a phone call, and several Likud ministers and Knesset members expressed support for Lieberman and his six-member faction joining the government. Netanyahu's other potential new coalition partner, Zionist Union leader Isaac Herzog, responded this afternoon by announcing that he was suspending his own negotiations with the Prime Minister after convening a press conference of his own. Herzog said Netanyahu will have to decide by the way of war, represented by Lieberman, or the way of peace, by choosing a national unity government with his Zionist Union faction. Herzog has said he will not join the coalition unless he is given a mandate to pursue negotiations with the Palestinians, an opportunity he believes has been boosted by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's call yesterday for a new Mideast peace initiative. The ball is now in Netanyahu's court, Herzog said, and in the coming days, the Prime Minister will have to decide which is his best hand to play in the high-stakes political game of enlarging his narrow coalition. Elon?
Kalev, Isaac Herzog is recycling his old campaign slogan of "It's us or him," only this time he means Avigdor Lieberman. So who's it going to be, Herzog or Lieberman?
Well, in the first place, it may end up being neither of them at the end of the day, and I'm sure the Prime Minister would prefer it be both of them. But there's no question that in terms of domestic politics, it would be far easier for Netanyahu to bring in Lieberman and his party. Already, as I said, many Knesset members, ministers in his own Likud faction have expressed support for that move, and bringing in Herzog, he would encounter opposition in the Likud. However, the bigger prize is the Zionist Union, and really the question is if the Prime Minister wants to look more internationally and bring in Herzog and really pursue the possibility of renewing a new diplomatic front with the Palestinians.
Well, on that point, the Zionist Union has 24 seats compared to Israel Beitenu's 6. Should Netanyahu say yes to the Zionist Union, can Herzog even deliver the goods?
Well, that's a question. Already, almost a dozen Zionist Union members said they'll not join the coalition under the current terms that have been agreed to or have been negotiated between Herzog and Netanyahu. Sheli Yachimovich, his main rival for the Zionist Union Party leadership, delivered a blistering attack yesterday, comparing Herzog to a dog running on all fours after Netanyahu's bones. So it's going to be very hard. Herzog obviously believes that this new call by President al-Sisi of Egypt will help convince his fellow party members to join the coalition. But right now, it doesn't look like that's enough. There would have to be some other more dramatic diplomatic development, I think, for him to bring all his party into the government.
Lieberman says that he wants the defense ministry. How is the Israeli political system going to stomach that prospect? And is the incumbent, Moshe Ya'alon, going to go quietly into the night?
There's no question that Lieberman as defense minister, it would be a very controversial choice, not only in the political establishment, but in the military establishment. Let's remember, Lieberman has been very critical of defense policy and even of the army over the years, including in the last Gaza conflict. Right now, tensions between the political echelon and the military are strained over the whole question of whether officers could speak out and the decision to prosecute the soldier for shooting a wounded terrorist in Hebron. Lieberman would only add to that problem, certainly. The other side, Ya'alon, I don't know. I don't think he would go quietly. There is some political chatter out there of the possibility of Netanyahu moving Ya'alon into the foreign ministry seat if Herzog doesn't come in and Lieberman does. That's another possibility. But of course, this would be a big blow for Ya'alon. He may not accept being removed from the ministry under any circumstances.
Well, this story looks set to develop well as the day goes on. Thank you very much, Kalev. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, opposition leader Isaac Herzog and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas all welcomed Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's calls to renew the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Today, US Secretary of State John Kerry is travelling from Vienna to Cairo to meet with the Egyptian president. IBA's Margot Dudkevich reports.
Speaking at an infrastructure conference in northern Egypt on Tuesday, al-Sisi said his country is willing to exert all efforts in finding a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Mentioning the Arab and French peace initiatives, as well as America's efforts to find a solution, al-Sisi said the situation provides an opportunity to write a new chapter of peace in the region. Now is the time to create hope for the Palestinians and assure security for Israel, he said. Such a move may prove to be more important than the peace accords between Israel and Egypt. US Secretary of State Kerry, who arrives in Cairo today, is likely to discuss the latest developments during his whirlwind visit to Egypt, where he will also focus on strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Netanyahu welcomed the Egyptian president's remarks and his willingness to promote a future of peace and security between Israel and the Palestinians and the peoples of the region. He went on to say that Israel is ready to participate with Egypt and other Arab countries to promote a diplomatic process that will bring stability to the Middle East. Isaac Herzog, opposition leader and head of the Zionist Union, said the Egyptian president's speech reflects an opportunity for a historical process in which the moderate Arab world expects Israel to reach out. It is Israel's duty to examine the situation seriously and take advantage of the opportunity, he said. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas also welcomed al-Sisi's initiative, praising what he described as Egypt's historic role in supporting Palestinian affairs. The coming days will tell whether efforts to advance the Israeli-Palestinian peace process will see a resumption of talks, or whether the recent overtures of peace are no more than just another media spin. Margot Dudkevich, IBA News.
Tzvi Mazel is a former Israeli ambassador to Cairo, where he served from 1996 to 2001. He joins me now in the studio to discuss Israeli-Egyptian relations. Ambassador, welcome to the studio.
Hello.
The timing of President al-Sisi's announcement is suspicious, to say the least, with Netanyahu and Herzog maneuvering to form a new national unity government. Yes. Was this deliberately orchestrated to try to influence Israeli domestic politics?
I don't think so. It was, as I see it, it was a kind of a good opportunity for Sisi to come up and to put his country again in the international arena, especially in the Middle East, because Egypt traditionally has done a lot between us and the Palestinians, but since the fall of Mubarak, it was it had a crisis, political, economic crisis. But now, as I see it, Sisi feels himself a little bit stronger, and he thinks this is the right time. Why this is the right time? Not only because he feels himself stronger, because in the last few weeks, let us say, he understands is that there is a kind of a number of initiatives, and he should not miss it. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, it was Abu Mazen that was in his country. 10 days ago, 2 weeks, it was Salman, King of Saudi Arabia. He speaks with Netanyahu, our Prime Minister, once or twice a week. This is what is being said. You see, he's expecting the French initiative for a conference. He's expecting to see today or tomorrow, I think, Kerry.
So the connection to the Israeli domestic scene, a coincidence as far as you're concerned?
I think it's a coincidence. No, he thought, probably based on his conversation with Saudi and Israel, he thought that this was the right time. But I don't think he's an agent of Israel. You see, he is the president of Egypt and very proud of himself. But he thinks that this is the time to put again Egypt into the arena of the international, the Middle East problem, and to show to the others we are here, we are again in
So moving from al-Sisi's desired effects on the international stage to the domestic arena, how is his decision to wade into the Israeli-Palestinian issue likely to be received on the Egyptian street?
I looked into the press, into the media yesterday when it happened, and today they gave only information, technical information. They reminded also that it's a problem between the political parties in Israel, and it is true, and this is quite very curious. The big question, why Sisi mentioned the disagreements between political Israeli parties? Yes, this is a question that we should ask ourselves. But I think that after conversation with Bibi the last few months, he understood something about local policy in Israel, you see? So we should not think that this is a plot or this is a conspiracy. This is the right time for Egypt to say, we are here and we'd like to put something positive, because after all it's a positive. When Egypt with 90 million people says something like that this is an opportunity to peace, to the Palestinians, to the Israelis. Please do something, and we will help you if it's possible. It's good. But don't forget that Egypt has not changed its stand about the Palestinian-Israeli...
So on that, does the technical approach of the media point to increasing normalization of ties between Egypt and Israel?
No, there is no normalization. There is probably, as we know, a good cooperation on the intelligence level regarding the revolt in northern Sinai. But the peace is still cold as it used to be. Please remember that only a few weeks ago, one member of the parliament, Egyptian parliament, who dined with the Israeli ambassador was expelled from the parliament. So there is a lot of hatred, a lot of hostility, but Sisi thinks that he can make things go on, and he does it very, very, slowly, gradually. And this is how we should look at it, not more than that.
Moving to Ramallah, Ambassador, Prime Minister Netanyahu has already called on Chairman Abbas several times to return to the negotiating table, and Abbas has refused. Does al-Sisi have the necessary leverage over Abbas to force him to return to the table?
Probably not. To change completely the way the Palestinians think, I don't think so. They still believe that that right of return, what they call the right of return, should be implemented. This is impossible. And they ask for the border of 67. It is impossible because 50 years have already passed since, you see. So their way of thinking is completely different from ours, and they don't want still. The Palestinians don't want to recognize Israel as the Jewish state of the Israeli Jewish people. Yes? So there is a problem, a big problem with the Palestinian attitude, the Palestinian position in Egypt, with the Palestinian in the Arab League. But still, when Egypt speaks, everybody listens. We'll see what's coming in. Everything is possible in diplomacy, but I don't think that
so we'll have to listen.
That things are going to change in a very fundamental way.
We'll have to listen to
so.
what Cairo says and see where this develops, but I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank
you. Welfare Minister Chaim Katz was questioned under caution by the Israeli Securities Authority on suspicion of making illegal profits on inside trading. Katz was probed for several hours yesterday after Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit gave the go-ahead for the investigation. According to media reports, financial advisor Moti Ben-Ari was also questioned. The two are suspected of making almost 300,000 shekels in profit each by having advanced knowledge of a planned merger between Nitzba Holdings and Airport City. The two allegedly purchased shares in the company before the merger. Katz's personal wealth is said to stand at millions of shekels. The Tel Aviv District Court today charged 20-year-old Palestinian terrorist Nouraddin Abu Haisha with murder for stabbing a soldier to death in an attack in Tel Aviv in November 2014. First Sergeant Almog Shiloni, a soldier serving in the Air Force, died of his wounds shortly after the attack outside Tel Aviv's Hahagana train station. During the hearings, it was revealed that Aisha purchased a knife in the Jaffa flea market, and when he spotted Shiloni walking in the street, decided to stab him. He confessed to committing the crime, saying he wanted to snatch Shiloni's weapon to shoot others. Mayor Ettinger, the alleged leader of a right-wing Jewish terror cell, is to be released from administrative detention at the beginning of next month. The far-right activist has been held at the Eshel prison in the south for the last 10 months without charge. Now, the Lod District Court has ruled that his detention order will not be extended. The Shin Bet, the Israel Security Agency, said it intends to impose restrictions on Ettinger's movements and whom he may contact. Ettinger, the grandson of far-right Rabbi Meir Kahana, was arrested after the firebombing of a home in the West Bank village of Duma, in which 2 parents and their baby son were killed, on suspicion of activity in an extremist organization. Officials also suspect Ettinger was linked to last June's arson attack on the Church of Multiplication of the Loaves and Fishes on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, as part of a bid to topple the government in favor of a Jewish theocracy. The American presidential primaries continue, with no sign that Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders will concede the Democratic nomination to Secretary Hillary Clinton anytime soon. Sanders declared victory in Oregon, leading by a 9-point margin with 75% of the votes counted. Oregon's delegates will be distributed proportionately. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, Sanders and Clinton will split the delegates evenly, with Clinton leading by less than 1 percentage point with almost all votes counted. Although Clinton needs only a small fraction of remaining delegates to win the nomination, Sanders pledged last night to remain in the race till the last ballot is cast. Meanwhile, in the Republican primary, Donald Trump, the only candidate still standing in the race, won both Oregon and Kentucky. He will need only 20% of remaining delegates to win the Republican nomination outright. A new Israeli-developed scanning system aims to dramatically shorten the waiting time in long queues caused by security checks in crowded venues. IBA's Efrat Batat has the story.
Security checks at airports and other crowded places are often very time-consuming and frustrating. The long lines are not only perceived as a burden for many people, but can also create a potential target. But that may no longer be the case thanks to a new Israeli-developed system that hopes to dramatically reduce the long wait while significantly enhancing security. It's called EasyCheck, and its developers say it minimizes the time to screen and detect suspicious objects to just 2 seconds.
I was able to stop him without having to ask everybody to stop, just the red people, the threatening people, just them, to stop them, to take them to further investigation, and allowing the flow of people to always continue. This way we can eliminate queues, we can eliminate harassment of people, and as you saw, the people were walking normally at a normal pace.
The system, which resembles the common metal detector, provides a full 360-degree body scan in 3 dimensions, right on the spot, by so eliminating the need to select passengers for questioning or possibly a pat-down. It is also capable of detecting a wide range of objects and threats, such as liquids and powder, and not only those made of metal.
The EasyCheck is actually the next generation of body screening. If we compare to the metal detector that can handle actually only metal threats, we can handle any other threats today, including explosives, if it's drugs or any liquids or gels or anything. While if we compare it to the new aviation solution, the flow, we can go through the system, no divest, no need to take off coats or jackets, no need to stop while being screened.
Full body scanners are known to be controversial, triggering a list of human rights and privacy concerns. However, EasyCheck's developers claim they've managed to overcome these issues by using a generic avatar-like image on its screens that identifies the location of foreign objects on the body with a yellow-colored box.
This explosive charge that the person had on him, which is about 200 grams, and it can take out a plane or a train quite easily.
International security experts have already praised the new system, stressing that it overcomes the limitations of existing scanners.
What is most common in airports today is just a metal detector. And people often forget what a metal detector does. It detects metal. It doesn't detect explosives. So what you've shown there with the 360-degree equipment from Israel is a piece of technology that does look at explosives, not just metal.
Developers insist that in order for security scanners to become more widespread at crowded venues, they need to be quick and easy to use.
I really believe that if the security will be easy and will not stop the people, you can deploy it in more places. For example, in entrance of terminals, in entrance of stadiums, in entrance of everywhere, from critical infrastructures to entrance of buildings or entertainment.
The tiny Jewish community of Cuba numbers just over 1,500 people, mostly in the capital Havana. This week, 10 Cuban Jewish mothers were in Israel on an unprecedented trip sponsored by the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project and Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. IBA's Ariel Sullivan met them and filed this report.
It's a long way from Havana to Jerusalem for these 10 Jewish mothers who are making an historic visit to Israel. Wrapping up their week-long tour, they examined Susan's house where teens at risk are taught to make jewelry.
It's very special to be here, more because we are with our friends. Most of them are traveling in first time in her life.
Really?
So it's very special.
Sarah, how many Jews live in Cuba?
We are more or less 1,300 Jewish in all of Cuba. Most of them live in Havana.
Is there a problem of assimilation in Cuba?
No. All of the Jewish go to the synagogues.
The Cuban Jewish community numbered more than 24,000 at the beginning of the 20th century, but most emigrated to the U.S. after the Cuban Revolution. Now, some are considering immigrating to Israel.
Israel is wonderful. We like it very much.
What are you going to say when you go back to Cuba to your friends?
Well, we say all of that we see here. The people love his country. The people, enjoy the country. We see Yom Ha'atzmaut, and it was wonderful.
Do you think Cuban Jews will come to Israel or make Aliyah?
Many Jewish in Cuba make Aliyah.
The group, which arrived on an Aeroflot flight via Moscow, of course, were part of the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project that brought over 800 mothers to the Jewish state.
JWRP means the Jewish Woman Renaissance Project. We work in partnership with different organizations all around the world to bring women to Israel and to make them feel that they have sisterhood, that they have a connection with Israel, with our Judaism.
You know, people say Cuba is a communist country and not so much freedom. Have you seen that in the way they behave? Are they different from the other Jewish mothers from around the world?
They are very happy. Of course, I saw that they are different, but in that level, you can feel that. Of course, you see that. But Baruch Hashem, they told us that in Cuba, even if they have difficult times, they have the permission to live their Judaism free. Like they don't, Baruch Hashem, I think that this is a miracle.
They say theirs is a strong Jewish community, but there are many mixed marriages and it faces further assimilation. Yet they remain very proud of their Cuban Jewish heritage.
Shalom de Cuba, Am Israel de Cuba Chai.
Over to finance, the shekel is down and shares are up. Here are the figures. And in the weather, tomorrow should be partly cloudy and temperatures will be pleasant. Here are the highs and lows in Israel and overseas. And that's all we have time for today. Join us again tomorrow for the latest news from Israel. Until then, I'm Elon Aslan Levy, wishing you a good evening and